All right, everyone, this is our last session of the day. I see lots of people that were here with us very early in the morning also, so congratulations on sticking around the entire time. It's been excellent to have you. What I'm going to be showcasing in this final session, the TAs, you would have to give them that admin link still for a live classroom. Individuals that enter with the admin link will enter as teachers, and individuals that use the student link will enter as students. Sasha, you can answer this question a little bit further about if TAs, if they click from within the coding rooms area on the live classroom for a particular course, if they're automatically joined as teachers. I believe so, but I haven't done that personally.
Yes, that's correct. The one thing that's tricky, and we've had some problems with this in the past, is if you have someone who first signs up as a student and then they open the classroom, they get in as a student, and then you want to upgrade them to a TA, sometimes that doesn't work. So you can always, if it doesn't work, you can write us a support ticket and we'll update it for you. But as long as they're like always in there as a TA, there's no issues there.
Excellent. All right, so again, in this last session, we're going to show off some of the more unique features of coding rooms. For instance, some of the block coding work that we're doing, as well as if you're interested in using a professional developing environment with your students, like Visual Studio Code, some of the work that Coding Rooms is doing to work on that. One of the things that I'll point out is in this session, we'll probably spend maybe until 5:30 looking at that. Then I'm going to open it up for Q&A with the CEO of Coding Room, Sasha, who's been with us. So you can ask some questions about the platform more and talk directly to Sasha, as well as we'll open up for some other questions, and we'll have kind of Sasha talk about the future of Coding Rooms a little bit then too. So let me give you this URL for another live classroom. Some of you have had like 10 of them at this point today. And I'm going to show you Coding Room's first kind of take on starting to use block coding as a possibility inside of this environment. All the recordings will be on Coding Room's YouTube channel. If somebody, maybe John or Barry, if you can dump the YouTube channel URL in, that'd be great. Now, what we have over here, when you first join this live classroom, is it's just the normal live classroom with Python set up. You go over to your presentation, you see Python code. You go over to My Workspace, you see your Python code file, and that's all I have set up here right now. We are going to be hopefully soon releasing a way for it to open up with block coding by default. But what I'm going to show you is how to open up block coding with Python right now. Any Python file, we can open up a block coding editor. If you click on the 3 dots next to the Python file, you can click Open Block Editor, and it will open up Blockly with the Python code. What's really awesome about this, and there's no other, I know because I've been doing the research, Sasha and I have been sitting down with some of the people that are big into the block coding research also at universities. This is the only Python block editor online, so that you can access online, that gives you full access to everything Python has to offer. So we can, with these blocks, also do anything. Pygame, Barry's PyDraw library, Turtle, Matplotlib, where you can graph some stuff. You can do anything with this block coding, which is really, really cool. This type of side-by-side block editor and text editor is actually what research is saying is some of the best ways to have students work with blocks where they still have the comfort of kind of not having to worry about the syntax and can go grab some different blocks to do things, but also be able to transition over to the text, which is really, really cool. So over in your workspace, just to clarify this point, again, click on the 3 dots next to the Python file and click Open Block Editor. Now, I'll be absolutely transparent. What I had been doing is I had been working with somebody that works on a tool called BlockPy. And that's what I've been using for my students in my first course, because most of them have experiences with coding, with block coding in middle school. My first course is Python. How do I transition them out of that block coding, but feel comfortable still in Python and not discouraged? And so BlockPy was the solution I found. And then I got talking with Sasha. I said, we got to include this somehow into coding rooms. And this is exactly what it is. In real time, we can program in Python in blocks and text, and they update in real time. I can go back and forth and I can do anything. And it will update the blocks as well as I'm updating the text in real time. So you should be able to see that for yourself also. As well as if I did have this presentation area collaborative, or if you open up just a regular workspace, it's collaborative. And it's the only block editor that is collaborative like this also, where you can have multiple people working on it at the same time. Anyone wants to know the technical details, the blocks are essentially working as copy and pastes of code. And that's how they'll display in the event history there, the playback feature, is anytime a student drops out a block, and essentially displays like a copy paste. I can even do imports. And all this is really doing, if anyone wants to think about how the codes, what's the help with the blocks, it's essentially allowing students to not have to memorize certain syntax, as well as the names of certain commands, right? If they go, oh, how do I get user input again? How do I do that? They can go over, they go, oh, there's an input category. Oh, this must have something to do with user input. Oh yeah, it's this input function with the brackets. And there's also some visual cues that block coding languages provide to help students think through it, right? We have this block for input and they look at it and they go, there's a little puzzle piece at the end. It doesn't connect to these other statements perfectly. Why is that? And then they may remember, oh yeah, because input gives us back, it returns a value for whatever the user typed in. Maybe I want to create a variable for that. I'm going to create a variable. Name, okay. And now I can set, and they have this little drop down for all the variables they create. That's weird, name didn't show up, but that's okay. Name. And they can put it in there. And now they have that. And they can reorganize the blocks in ways that they would expect. Oh, where it just happened. There we go. And if they need to reorganize things, I want this import at the top, okay. And then they can come over here and they can say, all right, I want to be able to do, say the person's name in here. All right. So we can go over to something being control flow. Just looking for a plus operator. Hell, I'll just type it, which happens sometimes. I actually have a custom thing with these blocks that I'm working on with everyone. Yeah, there should be blocks and calculations. Sasha, can you write that down? That's where the plus sign should be. So plus, addition, multiplication, subtraction should all be in that calculations one, is including modulo and mod operator, all that other stuff. It looks like the logic one's all squished up too, Sasha. And this is still in beta, the blocks editor. We're hoping to really improve this experience. But so we can go in there and we can do all that. So this was a great question also that we don't have yet. Should we be able to see my blocks in the presentation? Right now, we don't have that it automatically open the blocks editor. You can click on the 3 dots in the presentation and click open blocks editor, and it will show that. What we'll have in the future is we'll have we'll have it so that you can set up the template so it automatically opens the blocks editor by default, and students will be able to follow along that way. So there is some work to be done in the blocks. Please provide feedback. I think we definitely want to collect a lot of feedback on this. We see it as certainly a useful thing. I'll be providing a lot of feedback to Sasha and the team for sure as I use it throughout the year. You have to click on the little files icon, this little paper with a fold, and then you'll be able to see all the files, and you can click those 3 dots there. Someone asked to demonstrate some of the turtle stuff. Do we have turtle here in the blocks? We don't, but that's okay. We can import turtle. So everything, any Python code works in the blocks. Import turtle. T equals, what is it? Turtle dot turtle. T dot show, is it? Keep it on the screen. We'll see what happens. The one that does a lot of stuff with turtle, help me out if I'm wrong. It's not show, what is it? That's gonna keep it on the screen for me. Anyone know? Doesn't work with Scratch. However, that could be in the realm of possibilities in the future. Blocks are only for Python right now, but we're definitely interested in adding it to different things. I can just do t.forward. Yep. What's going to happen is it's not going to stay on the screen. The turtle, I'll just do this. I'll cheat. Boom, there's my turtle. It's not stamp. I'm trying to think of what it is. I can get it right now. I'll find it later. No, it's not stop or close either. Display? No, it's not display. I forget. But that will keep essentially the window open. For instance, right now, if I click enter in the command in the console, it goes away. But you can, all GUIs work, any library works, and you can see how that comes here. And hopefully we're going to implement custom commands where you can make that block toolbox area, you can make your own categories with your own blocks that you'd like to have for students to have in there. And I think that's really, really powerful.
Hey, Joe, I think that earlier question about the blocks not showing up was on yours. We're not seeing your blocks.
Yeah,
we can see out.
So yeah, on the screen share, you should be able to see it. However, if you go to presentation, you should be able to open it. Can you not?
No, sir. It doesn't have the ellipse on the file. I think it's because we don't have editable.
Yeah, so we're not. That's definitely what it is. So Sasha, please make a note of that the blocks cannot be displayed in the presentation area in the current implementation.
That is so neat.
But lots of cool stuff, definitely. So someone mentioned JavaScript. That's one of the ones next on the list, as well as Java. There's a potential for Java to also have these kind of things. We want to work through it with Python really well, get everything working well before we expand programming languages. So that's an interesting point also, to have documentation links somewhere in the IDE that opens up Python documentation or Java documentation for students, so they easily have links available for that. I think that is a really cool idea. All right, I'm going to close out of that editor, or maybe not. I'll just do this for now. And what I want to show you, so I'll leave this turtle code up too. The other thing I want to showcase is if you want to use a more professional ID, so the opposite end of the spectrum, with your students. One of the awesome things that Coding Rooms has is Visual Studio Code in the web browser in Coding Rooms, and can be used in assignments, live classroom, or regular workspaces, all the areas you saw. And you can even set up the assignment to automatically open in Visual Studio Code. What I need you to do, go do this on your own workspace. I actually have to do it on my own workspace. Because Visual Studio Code does not work on the presentation area, sadly. And that's just based off of the complexity of so many people being able to edit there and stuff like that. And Sasha can talk more of the details if you want during the Q&A. But I'm over here in my own workspace now. So you have to look at the screen share for this more specifically. You need to be over in your workspace. Click on the gear icon to see some of the settings for the ID for this workspace you have open. This is where you can change the default file for the run button, if you want to make a custom run configuration, some of those specific things that we didn't go over. For instance, if you want certain files to execute and do specific things, you can write a custom script to run whenever the run button's clicked. So there's some other unique things that you can do. But you can also change the coding language in the workspace if you want. What I want you to do, though, mainly, is I want you to go over and change the IDE, which some of you may have seen this a couple times and wondered, well, like, what do you mean change the IDE? Well, Coding Rooms, it wants to support other developing environments. So they have their IDE that we've been using all day, but they want to be able to support some other professional IDEs that you may be interested in using on the Coding Rooms platform. The very first one being Visual Studio Code. So I clicked that. I'm going to go do these steps one more time. When you're in your workspace, click on the gear icon, open up the settings for that workspace, and select change the IDE to Visual Studio Code. And then you can click change. And it's going to open Visual Studio Code. If anybody's had experiences with Visual Studio Code, you'll notice it's Visual Studio Code in the web browser. Coding Rooms IDE still shows up. You just got to click this VSC button now that you've activated that in the top right-hand corner to switch over to Visual Studio Code. Again, top right-hand corner, there's a VSC button to switch over to Visual Studio Code. Once you've changed the IDE, a great thing about it is you can, if you have Visual Studio Code selected as your IDE of choice, you can actually, with just a single click, switch between the Coding Rooms one and Visual Studio Code, just in case something's not working the way you want in the Visual Studio Code one. Coding Rooms has set it up to be very easy to switch back. So now we're still in a live classroom, and now we're going to use Visual Studio Code instead of Coding Rooms. So if you're saying, I want my students to use a more professional IDE, here you go, Visual Studio Code they can use. It just didn't load up for me, so I clicked this little red reset button just to reload it. If that happens to you, once in a while, switching over, it will do that. It will hang a little bit. Visual Studio Code does take a little bit more time to open up. A lot more features, a lot more stuff going on. And I got my file tree over here on the left, just as you would expect in Visual Studio Code. And I can click on the Python file, and I can see that same Python file I was working on, now opened in Visual Studio Code. I can click the little run button to actually run this file. Terminal opens up, runs the code. If you remember, I actually had graphical output on this. I can click View Desktop. When you have Visual Studio Code open, it just views on the right-hand side here. I can view my desktop, and I just ran this turtle code in Visual Studio Code instead. What are some of the advantages? So everything works, again, similarly. You can still go into students' code, make comments, edits, and stuff like that, and it will show up here on Visual Studio Code. So you can still do those type of things. I'm not sure what you mean. So Visual Studio, this is Visual Studio Code, just make note of, not the full Visual Studio. But it does have all the full capabilities, including intelligent code completion. So you'll notice Coding Rooms has code completion, but it's not quite as powerful as if you're used to something like Visual Studio Code. So I can do something like import random, right? And now when I go to type in random dot, it should show me all the things inside that library that I may want to be able to use, all the different functions or methods that I may want to be able to use. And you'll go, and this helps students also in a similar way. Block coding is actually similar to intelligent code completion when you think about it. So I go, oh yeah, I want to do random.seed, and you can do that. The other wonderful thing, and this is probably one of the biggest selling points of why should I use Visual Studio Code? Well, if you want to use a debugger with students, Python and Java, we have the debugger set up. So maybe I want to set up a variable count. So I'm just going to do a kind of cheesy example to look at the debugger. Print. I'm just going to increment count a bunch of times and add another print in here. Okay. All right. All right, so I can add my breakpoints. I'm just going to make every single one of these lines a breakpoint so we can see it step through the code. But we have a debugger now in here, right over here on the left, run and debug. What do you want to debug? Python file that's currently active, which is this one here. Just ran the file at my first breakpoint. Step. All right, it shows that I have a variable count and its value is 0. It just did this print statement. Wow, got that there. Okay, count's now 1. It did that line. Do the next line. Count is 2. Count is 3. So if you need students to debug and be able to observe variable values and run their code one line at a time, you can show them how to use a debugger like this and do that. And you have that available in Visual Studio Code for Python and Java. I'm not sure if JavaScript also, Sasha can interrupt. I'm not sure where the debugger is available. I just know I've used it in both of those.
I believe it should be, yeah. I think most languages that have Visual Studio Code support have the debugger as well. Yeah.
Excellent. Also, if you know Visual Studio Code, one of the things about it is it has lots of extensions. So you can go ahead and you can add different extensions that are available in Visual Studio Code also. So fully professional IDE, intelligent code completion, extensions, full debugger. Also has, I'm sorry, one of the things I almost forgot is GitHub support here. So you can use Visual Studio Code's GUI to pull down a repo and then push and pull from a repo, all that stuff. You can do that here also. So if that's something you're more interested in, you have all your stuff on GitHub and you want students to kind of pull that in and work on it for assignments, they can do that. Just set up Visual Studio Code as your IDE when you set up the template for the assignment. With Java, you got Maven support and all kinds of other things that come along with being able to use Visual Studio Code. You can even customize, excuse me, Visual Studio Code. So you can go into all the settings that are available typical on Visual Studio Code. Some people were asking earlier about changing font size. Maybe Visual Studio Code's a better option in coding rooms for your students because we can set it up to be a larger font size. And you can also do things like, change the theme to a nice dark theme and all those good things that are available in Visual Studio Code. Any questions about those things, the block coding, Visual Studio Code, any other things? Feel free to unmute also. You don't have to type in the chat if you feel comfortable unmuting. Yeah, I would assume so. What do you think, Sasha, about that question from David?
Yeah, they should pretty much work. Some of them might be different
Yeah.
just because it's in the browser, but I think, yeah, everything that I've tried works, at least for key bindings.
All right. So what I'd like to do now is I'm gonna give the floor to Sasha, and thank you, David. Yeah, I think so. Also, I'm gonna give the floor to Sasha, and he's gonna give us a little kind of future of coding rooms, what he's seeing as a CEO of all the some of the great ideas and vision he has for the product. And then we're just gonna open up for Q&A with him, so you can ask some questions, and I'll be here also if you want to ask me questions. All right, Sasha, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, first of all, I just really want to thank everyone for coming out today. I know there were a lot of sessions, and I hope you all found them interesting and worthwhile. Maybe Joe, actually, if you could post the exit for this session as well. We really appreciate your feedback, and hopefully we can make it even better PD day again next summer. In terms of updates from our end, so right now we're working on a really big new major release of coding rooms. And so you'll be able to do a lot more in terms of creating content, group work, and merging the live classroom and assignments so that there's no more no more confusion between what environment you're in and how to transfer assignments and templates and stuff between the different environments. And along with that, we'll also be including more courseware from other popular standards like CS Awesome and Mobile CSP, and bringing all of that together in coding rooms. We've always had a really strong commitment to backwards compatibility, because we know you build a lot of content in coding rooms and you have a lot of data there, and we don't want you to ever be worried about losing content as we upgrade things. I mean, those of us who've been with coding rooms since maybe a year or so now, when we first got started, you'll contest the fact that we've gone through a lot of major updates, but the data has always been either portable or everything has been backwards compatible. So that's a little bit in terms of what's on the horizon with coding rooms. There will be a lot more in terms of being able to share curriculum as well through the coding rooms platform. There's a handful of these what I would call sort of medium or minor features like the block editor as well that we're working to optimize, and with VS Code as well, what Joe just went through, that we'll be improving and sort of mainlining into our main feature set as well. And I think other than that, that's about all. That's all the near term type of product roadmap stuff that we have going on. And we're really excited about kicking off another year with you all, and hopefully improving some things as we go in person. I'm going to be also visiting some schools that are using coding rooms and shadowing a lot of lessons, and we hope that from all those experiences we'll be able to bring things back into coding rooms that make the in-person teaching experience even better. So with that, I guess I'll open it back up to you all. If anyone has questions or anything, we can kind of take these last 10-15 minutes, whatever we need to go through them. And then in terms of just logistics, our team will be preparing the recordings over the next few days. And so they should be up on YouTube by next week at the latest. And we'll also send recordings via email for everyone who registered as well. So if there are any questions, please feel free to unmute or ask them in the chat, and we'll be sticking around here. Joe, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, just everyone, feel free, ask away some cool things, maybe ideas you had today that you want to run by Sasha. Now's the time. And I mentioned this earlier. What I've loved about coding rooms ever since, the reason why I paid for the subscription right away is, as soon as I started working with them, I realized they really do listen to teachers and want to build a platform that's awesome, effective, and efficient for teachers and students, so that you don't have to worry about the complex setups and the barriers, the unnecessary barriers to have students actually learn computer science or programming. So one of the ways they do that is they really do listen to teacher feedback, and listen to the community to build the best product. Now's the time that you can ask Sasha some questions, bring up some different ideas you had, and definitely take advantage of it. We do have one question in the chat.
Yeah, so for CS Awesome, that's a great question. This is our top priority right now. Basically, this is coming in the new major release. We'll probably have a beta that you guys can join probably in September. And then we're planning like a sort of mainstream release of that in sort of mid to late fall. But this year for sure, this calendar year for the CS Awesome support. And we're kind of starting to build out a wait list for that as well now. So, because we've heard a lot of interest on using CS Awesome with coding.
And with that CS Awesome integration, Sasha, it will come along with a lot of other open textbooks, correct? The way that you're kind of creating this integration?
Yeah.
Or
CS
the ability
Awesome is
to
the
bring
one.
in.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're kind of focusing on starting with CS Awesome, and then that there's a lot of other open textbooks, some of which we're working with directly, and others that are just sort of open that we're looking to include with coding rooms as well. So that's a huge part of all the new work that we're doing there. Definitely. And if you're interested in joining the beta for the CS Awesome stuff, just drop an email to hello@codingrooms.com. And then we'll get back to you on that. Regarding embeddable editors, do you mean embedding stuff within coding rooms, or do you mean embedding like coding rooms IDs in other web pages?
In other web pages, kind of like Replit or Trinket, when you can just kind of, to get kind of a Jupyter notebook kind of vibe where you have a few instructors and then like maybe an embedded like quick template and multiple ones of those.
Yeah. That's eerily similar to what we're developing in our new major release. So that's kind of like a big part of what we're working on right now. We'll have a really cool way to edit those. So yeah, if you can just drop us a note to hello@codingrooms.com, and we'll keep you posted on that for the well, first for the early access, and then also when it goes live. And as far as early resources or resources for new teachers, we have a documentation site called help.codingrooms.com, and then also our YouTube channel is a really good resource for that, which is youtube.com/c/codingrooms. And I just pasted that in the chat as well. In terms of limitations on adding students to a free course on coding rooms, there's no limit to how many students you can have in the free tier for a course. Live classrooms do have some limitations, and if I remember correctly, it's 50 students per live classroom, or 50 concurrent students. That's not related to like the limit for the entire course though. So And in terms of even the paid limit for students in a live classroom, I believe is 180. And that's kind of a technical limitation. Yeah, happy to answer any other questions. We'll be sticking around here for a little while longer. And after the session, if you have more questions, you can always use the live chat on our website, or you can drop us an email to hello@codingrooms.com, and we'll be sure to help you ASAP. Also, if you're looking to get started with Coding Rooms this year, you can fill out one of the forms on our website or use the chat and set up a demo with one of our team members, and we'd be happy to, if you have one feature in specific that you're confused about, or you want to just make sure that you have everything set up before your first class, we'd be happy to go through that with you and help you set it up in your account and all that type of stuff before the school year starts.